Return of an old friend. Summertime was in full swing on Sodor. The sky was blue, the fields were green, and the engines were working hard. Thomas was kept busy with the passengers with the help of Daisy. Percy took goods up and down the line, and Toby and Mavis were kept busy at the quarry. One morning, Thomas and Toby were getting steamed up in the shed when Percy bustled in, singing a little song. "The bluebells are coming, oh ho, oh ho, the bluebells are coming, oh ho." "Percy," asked Thomas, "what are you on about?" "I know what I'm on about," said Percy, and he explained to the two engines. "Ah, so he's coming back for a visit?" Toby asked. "Yes," finished Percy. "The Fat Controller told me about it this morning. He says he's coming as part of his railway's 50th anniversary celebrations." "Oh, it'll be nice to see him again," said Thomas. "I'd love to hear how his railway's getting on." A few days later, the engines were finished for the day, when they heard a familiar whistle from the station platform. "He's here!" squeaked Percy. And he was. Stepney came trundling to the sheds. But he looked somehow different. Instead of his original railway colours of his old railway, he was instead painted all over black with red lining. His name and number painted white on his tanks and cab. "Ah, good evening, you three," Stepney smiled. "It's nice to see you all again." They replied in kind. Stepney?" Percy began. "What?" Stepney asked, and then he realised. "Oh, this!" he said. "This is my new livery for the 50th anniversary celebrations. This was, in fact, my original livery for when I first came to the Bluebell." They then heard another whistle from the platform, and another tank engine backed down alongside the shed. "Ah, Bluebell," smiled Stepney. "Come and join us." Bluebell was the same colour as Stepney, but instead lined with blue. "Nice to meet you," she smiled. Percy and Thomas looked smitten at the sight of her. Stepney laughed. "This is a good friend of mine, Bluebell," he explained. "She's been on the line with me ever since the Bluebell Railway started all those years ago, in 1960. "Has your line got any more engines since you last came?" Percy asked. "Oh yes," said Stepney. "Quite a lot since I last came. Quite most of them mainline engines. You'll like our two bullied Pacifics, Blackmore Vale. Looks like a spam can, but he's a hard worker really. Sir Archibald Sinclair, however, is a rebuilt member of the class. Only just been restored, but we call him Archie for short. Too difficult to remember a name sometimes." "Yes, we can imagine," the engines agreed. "We also have engines from my old railway," Stepney continued. "Like Fenchurch, one of my brothers. Originally black, but later rebuilt to his original style. And then there's Birchgrove, another one of the early engines to be bought. We get along with him quite well. Then we get engines like 1618 and 1638. Both engines that mean well. 1618's under overhaul, so 1638's doing his work for him for the time being." "Well," said Thomas after a while, "sounds like your line has been busy." "We have," smiled Bluebell. "Our society is doing all they can to get a line back to what it once was." "Stepney?" Percy asked, and everyone knew a question was on the way. Stepney smiled. "Yes, Percy?" he asked. "How did you actually start on the Bluebell?" "Ah," Stepney grinned. "I was wondering when someone was going to ask. Let me and Bluebell tell you about it." And the engines listened carefully as Stepney and Bluebell began their wonderful tale.